Hey, how's it going, folks? So, due to a comment responsible at the time, ChckMcn returns. Ed posted a comment. His idea is that we need to nationalize all the weapons dealers and manufacturers that have government contracts in order to disassemble the military industrial complex. And he thinks that private manufacturers should have almost no regulations. And he wants to know what my thoughts are. So, I'm going to give my thoughts. Well, first off, yeah, we do have a massive military industrial complex. It is responsible for a lot of our deficit spending, not all of it, obviously. However, it is still pretty damaging to the country, among other things. And this is actually not a new concern. Actually, President Dwight Eisenhower, in his farewell address, had mentioned the dangers of the military industrial complex and deficit spending. So, when it comes to small arms, actually, only a small portion of our defense budget gets spent on small arms. There are a lot of other things that they spend their money on: vehicles, uniforms, food, fuel, electricity, buildings. The list goes on. So, even if you nationalized all the weapons dealers, I mean, that only makes up a fraction of the budget. This is not going to disassemble the military industrial complex. Moreover, many of these weapons manufacturers have contracts with other countries, and many of these weapons manufacturers are owned in other countries. The big one for the Army is Fabrique Nationale. They manufacture the M240s, the M249s, or M4s now. Um, so what we're going to go take that from them? We're going to take that from the Belgians. Well, how are you going to work that deal out? If you want to talk about some of the ones that really peddle the influence, I mean, and in my opinion, are a waste of money. I mean, you look at things like the F-23. We already have fighters that do the job of the F-23 is supposed to do better, and they're far cheaper. The reason why the F-23 is still a thing is because Lockheed Martin has set up plants in key districts, enough to where the Congress creatures have to vote in favor of keeping the F-23. If they want to keep their job as a Congress creature. And this is unfortunate. Um, so, with that being said, I don't think that nationalizing them is going to do anything. And we've had many of our weapons at one point nationalized, and the reason why that got taken away, well, all you got to do is look up the M14 and then look up, the Army Ordnance Corps sabotaging the M16 when they were told by the Secretary of Defense that they were going to field these things and test them out in Vietnam. The Army Ordnance Corps just did everything they could to sabotage that program because they thought they were going to get their M14. The Army was going to start using the M14s again, and they would be back in business if the M16 failed. They thought it was perfectly acceptable to get our soldiers unnecessarily killed in Vietnam just so they could keep their project and really keep their jobs manufacturing weapons. So this is why we contract out the small arms. Unfortunately, I don't have much of an answer for how to dismantle the military industrial complex on this one. Um, so I don't know what to tell you now. With the private manufacturers and private dealers, I'd like to see them remove the restrictions and regulations on them as well. Hell, I mean, a lot unless you bought a gun recently, you don't know that they've changed up the 4473 again. It included even more questions on it, and they're a little bit more nitpicky with this. With that being said, this was done at the behest of a certain person in the Oval Office whose son should be sitting in jail right now for outright lying on the 4473. But his son is not going to face some music because his daddy's, the man in the Oval Office. And the man in the Oval Office is still going to keep on pushing on these gun control laws because he knows it's not going to affect his son. And this is why a lot of these gun controllers will continue to break gun laws. Well, the ones with influence will continue to break gun laws, get away with it. Meanwhile, some poor sap who didn't even know they were breaking some obscure gun law gets put in jail for anywhere from 5 to 10 years, you know, over something stupid. I mean, and you know what? It's not just the Democrats on this one. Right now, the Republicans are in control of the House. If they really wanted to put their money where their mouth is and, you know, actually stand up for the Second Amendment, they control the budget. They could easily say, all right, look, figure out a way to pay the ATF agents because you're not getting tax dollars so long as the ATF agents are doing this crap. Um, yeah, it is pretty bad. If you filled out a 4473 recently, you'll notice the FFL is making sure you cross every T, dot every I, making sure it's written, like almost immaculately. So yeah, and the reason why they're doing this is because the ATF agents are nitpicking them, and it's partly due to Biden's zero tolerance policy. And you know what? I personally don't think the Republicans, well, some of them do give a shit about the Second Amendment, but I think most of them are only paying as much lip service as they need to get reelected. You know, hence you've got people like John Cornyn, Dan Crenshaw, Mitch McConnell, and people like that who will sit there and vote in favor of gun control laws and definitely continue to fund the ATF. Uh, when, and I know I mentioned a few senators in that one, but Republicans, if they just come together and say, no, you figure out a way to work without funding and just cut all the funding to all this crap, well, they'd get somewhere, but that would involve them having to have some principle and a spine. Mainly principle, because I don't think it's that they're spineless. I think it's that they're just as power hungry as the Democrats, and they just can't say that to their voters' faces. They're basically lying. And yes, I will treat them as if they are acting in bad faith. They've shown it time and time again that they're acting in bad faith. So, and unfortunately, the voters won't put their foot down either. John Cornyn, for example, should have been primaried a very long time ago. He's shown his, well, I'm going to try to keep my cussing to a minimum on this particular response, but yeah, he's shown that he needs to be removed from office, and he should have been primaried out quite a while ago. And unfortunately, too many people in my state will just sit there and look at it. Oh, what's a Republican? He's okay. He's not like the Democrats who are outright talking about more gun laws. So yeah. So unfortunately, till more of us put our foot down harder on this issue and actually get a little bit more serious about this, those regulations are going to stay. Those restrictions are going to stay. Those bad laws are going to stay, and they're going to keep getting pushed harder. I mean, and if you vote Democrat, um, don't tell me how much you really like your guns at this point. You might like them for you, but guess what? One of these days, they're going to end up getting your guns too. I mean, of course, unless you got influence. And that's just the way it is, you know. And by the way, for those of you who are Democrats, but still like your guns, you should probably thank some of the people who vote for Republicans, because honestly, at least I mean, while I've said that Republicans are acting in bad faith and they really like to do, a lot of them probably would like to do more on gun control and probably would like to push more gun laws. They just can't outright say that to their voters because they'll lose office. At least, you have people in there who are willing to vote against the Democrat, you know, just, I mean, if only to protect the Second Amendment. So now, if you've watched this far, I've got something else to add to this. And this is unfortunate. Um, the military industrial complex is a problem. It is one of many problems we have. It's a sign that we are on the decline. Historically speaking, when great civilizations are on the decline, it normally doesn't stop and then usually another civilization replaces that civilization as the dominant civilization. And unfortunately, we've lost a good portion of a republic, our constitution. It's only being half enforced, and what I mean by this is that the portions that benefit those in power are being, obviously used to give them legitimacy. However, the portions that are don't benefit them or inconvenient to them are being absolutely disregarded. So we're beyond the point of our republic, unfortunately, and honestly, on the empire portion of it, there is going to be a point to where we decline. And honestly, I think we've started down that path already as well. So I don't know what to tell you, man. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Y'all take it easy out there and have a great day.